All right, I've got so many big news stories for you. President Trump's $500 million lawsuit is tossed out. I'll go into details. On the day he gets good news, Democrats accuse him of using his influence to enrich himself and his family. I'll go into details on why that is a lie. Russia does one of its biggest attacks on Ukraine, leading many to believe that maybe Putin is being dishonest with Trump and NATO. This and much, much more. Thank you guys so much for liking and sharing these videos. Let's jump right in. President Trump has poured more than $100 million into bonds since becoming president in late January of 2025, according to the Office of Government Ethics. There was a complaint that said that Trump was using his influence to get rich off of the stock market. The filing shows the activity began immediately with over 30 bonds purchased on January 21st alone, and nearly 700 by August 1st. Certified reports, however, confirmed the investments are entirely handled by a third-party financial institution, meaning President Trump and his family have no direct involvement on how his money is invested. The portfolio spans municipal and corporate bonds, ranging from Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority to health facilities, to Michigan Power, to Johnson County Park, Home Depot, T-Mobile, UnitedHealth Group, Wells Fargo, Morgan Stanley, Qualcomm, and more. So while the critics say, keep digging, there's got to be more there, the ethics watchdogs are saying there's really nothing here. But Democrats say it's not good enough. Continue to dig into President Trump to find how he's made so much money. Well, he's made most of his money before he became president, you dimwits. So while members of Congress are using insider trading secrets to become super rich Donald Trump hired a third party to manage his money and mostly put it into bonds. What a difference, right? All right, Vice President JD Vance gave a fiery speech where he discussed what he and President Trump have been doing for the country. It's really, really incredible. And I don't think I'm going to play the entire thing, but let me at least play some of it for you right now, because I think you guys will find this very, very interesting.
If you go back 50, 60 years, what is the fastest period for blue-collar wages rising in the United States of America? It is the time that we are living in right now, thanks to the economic policies of Donald J. Trump. You know what the worst thing for people at the bottom of the income ladder is? It's when you flood the country with millions upon millions of illegal aliens and force our poor Americans to compete for jobs against low-wage foreigners who don't even have the legal right to be here. That is what destroys the wages and the livelihoods of people who are struggling in this country. We want to empower them to live the American dream. That's why we're protecting their jobs, lowering their taxes, and fighting to make their country safe again.
All right. He's right. This is what Democrats and the old Republican Party wanted. Lots of foreigners willing to work for pennies on the dollar, replacing Americans. If they could, they would send those jobs overseas to pay even less, fractions of pennies on the dollar, but not anymore. Under JD Vance and President Donald J. Trump, investment is rising, wages are rising, American workers are rising. The only thing that's really going down is these foreign workers that are losing their jobs. And this is really, really good for the United States of America. Oh, the irony. Senator Adam Schiff, the guy who's been dodging political bullets like a pro, is now staring down a mortgage fraud probe. Now, he says he's completely innocent, and there is no there. There's nothing to see. This is all political retribution from Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is such a wicked, evil person. So if you're so guilty, why have you created a legal defense fund? Why are you now begging your voters and donors and Hollywood elites to pour millions of dollars into a legal defense fund? So he says, I'm totally innocent and there's nothing to see here. At the same time, he's begging for money. He's absolutely begging for money. So the DOJ has put a major spotlight on his alleged fraud. President Trump has put a spotlight. He falsified documents in order to get better mortgage terms, lower down payment, better interest rates. Schiff says that this is a baseless smear. However, he's the one that signed the documents. He's the one that put his name to paper saying that this was a primary residence. So he's in big trouble. And we're going to continue to expose him here on the channel. All right, now a new intelligence report shows Dr. Anthony Fauci knew with certainty that COVID was man-made and came from the Wuhan lab of China, where he gave money to do illegal gain-of-function research. Not only did he know this in 2020, but it's now believed he knew it as early as 2019, and U.S. intelligence agencies helped him to cover this up. It's disgusting. Millions of people died, and now this guy is just out walking around. Let's go ahead and listen to this report together.
I think every American should be upset with Fauci, no matter what their political affiliation. This was somebody who was the head of U.S. biodefense. Much like J. Edgar Hoover, he was sort of embedded in government for decade upon decade upon decade, and accumulated massive influence over that time, overseeing a multi-billion-dollar portfolio. And when a novel virus came along that a lot of circumstantial evidence tied to a lab that he had sent funding to and sent sensitive IP to, he used his position as the head of U.S. biodefense, including multiple meetings with the National Security Council in January and February 2020, never mentioned this connection, and in the public, used his position as, for a time, a trusted voice in the media to also suppress this theory that would have massive reputational consequences for him. So this is someone who put his own personal interests and covering his butt basically over national security. And there were a lot of other mini Faucis sort of embedded in the deep state as well, who, when presented with evidence, looking at the viral genome, and the viral genome contains clues suggesting engineering that Chinese authorities couldn't hide. Chinese authorities, they can, order their labs to destroy samples. They can delete sequences from databases. What they can't do is hide the genome of the virus itself. And our smartest scientists were saying there are clear signs that this is a lab-generated virus embedded in the genome that Chinese authorities are powerless to hide. And Fauci used his enormous influence to suppress that fact. COVID infected Democrats and Republicans, and I think no matter what your affiliation is, you should be upset that you were deceived for years.
I am, but now this new report coming out that the intel agencies covered this up and buried it, and that Fauci knew as early as 2019 is really, really frustrating. I really hope that they will undo his auto pen pardon, and we will see him basically brought to justice. I'll talk more about that in a minute. In a stunning turn of events, a New York appellate court earlier today tossed out a massive $515 million civil fraud penalty against President Donald J. Trump, deeming it excessive under the 8th Amendment. The ruling from a divided 5-judge panel upheld Judge Arthur Engoron's findings that Trump and his son Eric and Don Jr. committed fraud by inflating financial statements to secure favorable loans. However, the court spared Trump the crippling fine, though it upheld non-monetary sanctions like barring Trump and his son from corporate leadership roles for years. Trump hailed the decision as a total victory on Truth Social, stating, "I greatly respect the fact that the court had the courage to throw out this unlawful and disgraceful decision that was hurting businesses all throughout New York State." New York Attorney General Letitia James, who brought the case, vowed to appeal, saying the court affirmed the well-supported finding. Donald Trump, his company, and his 2 children are liable for fraud. This case may now head to New York's highest court. So even when Trump wins, they say, we're going to continue to go after you and try to ruin your life. So I don't know that Letitia James is going to be around long enough to see the outcome of this. But as of right now, the $515 million wiped out. The $175 million that Trump had to put up as collateral will be returned to him and his family and his business. So it is a total victory, and we can all move on. And Letitia James will most likely be rotting in jail after doing mortgage fraud, the very thing that she accused Donald J. Trump of doing. All right, I've got more big stories for you, but first, a word from today's video sponsor. Hey friends, I've got something huge for you today, but it's only for a limited time. As you know, I've partnered with Monetary Gold, the company I trust when it comes to protecting your retirement with physical gold and silver. And right now, they've put together an exclusive deal for my channel only. If you pick up the phone and call Monetary Gold today and tell them you want the Stephen Gardner deal, they'll cover all of your IRA fees for life. That's right, for life. But you have to call and ask for the deal today. No gimmicks, no gotchas, just a smart move to secure your retirement with a company that cuts out the middleman and puts you first. But here's the catch. This deal won't last forever, and it's only available for my audience. So don't wait. Call now, ask for the Stephen Gardner deal, and take the first step towards protecting your future with real, tangible wealth. I want you to call them right now at 800-608-1770 and make sure to say Stephen Gardner sent me. Within days of the auto pen pardon idea, Biden's own Department of Justice began telling him and the White House, this is a bad idea. These pardons signed by an auto pen could be questioned. And over and over and over again, the DOJ was saying, we need to hear from President Joe Biden directly. Biden never took a phone call and never held a meeting. And that's why I believe that these are about to be unwound. Let's go ahead and listen to what Mike Howell had to say about this, because this is a huge new revelation.
Right. So yesterday we put out some bombshell documents, and they were produced to us by Ed Martin. Quickly on him. You know, I know a lot of the posse have been frustrated at the pace and lack of accountability in this administration, but so long as Ed Martin is there, there is a fighting chance, whether it's Letitia James, Adam Schiff, and now the auto pen. And so basically, the auto pen's been at a little bit of a standstill. There's been these announcements of government investigations, but no real progress. But then walks in Ed Martin, who is the pardon officer and has access to these documents and produces to the Oversight Project an email from one of Merrick Garland's top, if not the tippy toppest, career official in the Department of Justice, who the day after Joe Biden issued these sweeping pardons to what he was saying were nonviolent criminals, this lawyer on a Saturday morning pulled the fire alarm, issued this lengthy email saying this whole thing is bogus. It can't work for all of these different legal reasons. The president, not an auto pen, needs to actually weigh in and answer these things. And oh, by the way, you should stop saying that these are nonviolent criminals, because guess what? They're some of the worst violent criminals that you're actually releasing. So that's the document we put up. This breaks the thing wide open again. And I think the Trump administration is poised for action now, because they have, guess what? the Biden administration agreeing with them in their own DOJ.
Well, speaking of the DOJ and transparency, I know you guys have also been at the tip of the spear on all things Epstein. I'm just curious if you guys have gotten any documents or any movement on that front.
So no, is the short answer. We were obviously very vocal. We thought the rollout of the announcement to close it down was clearly botched, and I think that's not even controversial to say right now. I think everyone agrees it was botched. But there was a development today. You might recall about a month or so ago, there was this theory that was put out there that the DOJ would ask a grand jury to release documents and to take everyone's kind of eye off the ball for a little bit. And then today, the judge overseeing that basically said, hey, guess what, guys? There's not really any documents here. There's no witnesses who even testified to the grand jury, or victims, rather. Only one government witness who had no idea what was going on. There's only a few dozen pages of documents. And furthermore, hey, Department of Justice, you're the one who have all the information. You can release it if you want. Now they've, said, the DOJ, that they're going to start giving things to Comer. As I've long been saying, this thing's a mess. It'd be great if the U.S. government could just come clean if, Epstein was an intel asset of either ours or somebody else. I think everyone kind of knows what's going on at this point, and it wouldn't hurt just to be candid about that, one very, basic fact, and maybe a little promise never to take advantage of a, sex trafficker in this regard again.
I'm curious what you make of the appointment of former AG Andrew Bailey to the co-deputy director of the FBI.
Yeah, well, look, AG Bailey's a superstar. He, actually was involved in the beginning of our AutoPen investigation because he brought the issue back to the forefront when he challenged all of Biden's basically actions based on competency issues. So I've long been a fan of his. I'll say it's highly unusual for there to be a co-deputy director of the FBI. So I think it kind of points to a potential shakeup there. There have been some missteps along the way. We haven't seen the FBI substantially reformed. Instead, we've kind of been told it's great now that there's new leadership there and we shouldn't worry and we should just applaud. That's not to say Cash and Dan haven't done some good things, but when you bring in a new senior leader at this point, I think it, tends to confirm what it looks like, that there's going to be some changes at play. I don't know if that's ultimately personnel. I don't know if that means the FBI is going to change in tactics and actually work towards some serious prosecutions instead of just, papering over old things. But I'm hopeful. In Bailey, we trust, and we've trusted before, though.
All right. I want to get your thoughts on that. So a couple of things. This top of the Department of Justice puts out this Saturday morning email saying, this looks really bad. You cannot do these auto pen pardons. Why am I not hearing from the president? I need to know the intent of the president. I need the direction directly from the president. Nothing ever happened. So I'm really hoping and praying that those get unwound. Now, the other thing, AG Andrew Bailey. Yesterday, I was reading and hearing that he's being brought in because of his legal expertise in order to help Dan Bongino. Now, Alex Jones and other FBI people, they're saying, actually, Dan Bongino might be getting replaced. And he is basically going to be training Andrew Bailey on what's been going on, get him up to speed. I'd like to know what your thoughts are in the comments. Are they gearing up with a co-director to bring people down because he has good legal experience? Or is Dan Bongino about to be replaced? I don't know. FBI whistleblower Kyle Seraphin told Alex Jones that he's hearing that Dan Bongino is about to be replaced. Mike Howell just said something like that. I don't know the answer. Okay. Tulsi Gabbard said, it's time for DNI 2.0. She is laying off about 40% of the DNI workforce. Some of them will be shifted over to the CIA. Some of them will be fired. She cited decades of bureaucratic bloat, power abuse, unauthorized links, political weaponization, saying that the worst of it was the Russiagate hoax and the cover-up of the Hunter Biden laptop in order to install Joseph Robinette Biden as the 46th president of the United States. She also worries about biolabs, cybersecurity intelligence, and biosecurity threats. She said that this will save the American people about $700 million a year. Again, most of those are going to be reassigned to other parts of the government, with about half of those just being told, thank you for your service. We're absolutely moving on. Now, Gabbard, she is under a lot of pressure because not only is she trying to reform the intelligence agencies, but she's also trying to use past data from these very agencies to prove the coup of Barack Obama. So more will be coming out about that. All right, FBI Director Kash Patel announced earlier today that they were able to arrest somebody in the FBI's top 10. Let me go ahead and play that for you right now.
Under President Trump's leadership about protecting the homeland and our way of life, the FBI continues to go to the ends of the earth to chase violent criminals and terrorists and anyone who will do us harm. So today, I'm proud to announce on your show, thanks to the dedicated women of the FBI, we captured Cindy Singh, who has been a fugitive for multiple years out of the state of Texas. The state of Texas in 2023 charged Miss Singh with the capital murder of her own 6-year-old child. Her own 6-year-old child. She fled the United States of America years ago and was not seen by anyone for 2.5 years. And thanks to our great work with our partners in the government of India and overseas, we literally captured her for the first time in 2.5 years. She is now in FBI custody and she's on her way to face prosecution in the state of Texas. And also thanks to our great partners at the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, she'll also be facing charges of feloniously evading prosecution for those heinous state charges. And just to show you what the FBI and the G-men are doing here and the women are doing here, that is our 4th top 10 capture and arrest in the 6 months of Donald Trump's tenure. That is as many as Joe Biden did in 4 years. On top of that, we're getting folks like people who were involved in the Abbey Gate bombing. And we've already captured one of those folks thanks to our collaboration with Director Ratcliffe. So the FBI is back to going after violent criminals and defending the homeland because that's what Donald Trump mandate was elected to do.
Oh, man, that's amazing. They also just took down a pedophile ring where they were able to save children and arrest several dozen adults. I think Kash Patel's doing a great job. Would I like some of these big stories to come out, some of the big people to be arrested? Yes, absolutely. But the fact that there have been hundreds of children saved and dozens of creepos put in jail makes me very happy. So this is great news. Did you hear they've captured 4 of the top 10 in the first 6 months, which is more than what Biden did in 4 years. That's really, really amazing. Just really amazing. All right, more information is coming out about how whistleblowers are coming forward saying that they were absolutely told not to investigate Hillary Clinton, that the Clinton Foundation was completely hands-off. There's over 6,000 pages of documents that are missing as part of congressional testimony. And we now know that Sally Yates shut everything down. What we don't know was who told her to do that. Was it somebody higher up in the FBI? Was it somebody higher up in the DOJ? Was it Barack Obama himself? Either way, out of nowhere, this investigation with thousands of pages of documentation and 19 bank accounts being reviewed was suddenly shut down. As I know more, I will come on and tell you more about that. Well, Texas might soon get those 5 additional congressional seats after a redistricting bill passed. This now goes to the Texas State Senate, where it's expected to pass and go to Governor Greg Abbott's desk for signature. President Trump said, big win for the great state of Texas. Everything passed. On our way to 5 more congressional seats and saving your rights, your freedoms, and your country itself. Texas never lets us down. Florida, Indiana, and others are looking to do the same. More seats equals less crime, a great economy, and a strong Second Amendment. It means happiness and peace. But Republicans, there is one thing even better. Stop mail-in voting, a total fraud that has no bounds. Also, go to paper ballots before it's too late, at 1/10 the cost, faster and more reliable. If we do these 2 things, we will pick up 100 more seats, and the crooked game of politics is over. God bless America. Also, did you see that President Trump put out a fiery post on Truth Social demanding that Gold Star mother Tina Peters in Colorado be immediately released from prison, or he will bring he will go crazy on the state of Colorado. Now, she found evidence that there was cheating in the Colorado election. Then she was immediately arrested, and she's been rotting in jail. She's in her late 70s. Her son was in the military and died for this country. And Trump is saying, I'm about to go ballistic if you do not let this woman go. So lots going on in the country. Sadly, Russia launched 270 drones and 10 missiles at Ukraine. So now you've got many saying, what are we doing here? Are we really trying to bring this war to an end? Or is Vladimir Putin a liar and doesn't really want this thing to come to an end? Sadly, 13,000 civilians have been killed. 569 of them were children. Half of those came just in the last 90 days. So I can see why President Trump wants to bring this to an end and why he's been saying, I believe Putin wants to end this war. But the ball really is in Putin's court and Zelensky's court. Donald Trump is doing everything he can, but man, these guys are like trying to herd a bunch of long-tailed cats. It's crazy. All right, that's my update for today. If you could, give this video a like, hit that subscribe button, stay amazing, and I will see you on the next video.